Welcome to KeepItReal Studios, the only channel on YouTube that keeps it real. One of my favorite things after a UFC main event is the narrative shifts, and I believe after UFC 308 we had one of the craziest narrative shifts in a long time. Just rewinding back to earlier this year, everybody was stating that Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje at UFC 300 was going to be the fight of the year. And I thought the same thing too, and it definitely delivered. Then after that fight, Topuria versus Max got announced. Everyone said that was the fight of the year. Now, after Topuria knocked out Max Holloway in the third round at UFC 308, everybody is saying that Topuria should go up against Islam Makhachev. I believe this will be the fight of the century. Ilia Makhachev is arguably the pound-for-pound king, and everybody is saying that Ilia Topuria is on the track to becoming the featherweight GOAT. This fight, it will be very interesting because I feel like their styles are so different and yet so similar, and when they just meet in the middle of the octagon, the clash of their styles will be unique. Looking at their last two fights, starting off with Islam at UFC 302 against Dustin Poirier, and this was one of the greatest fights I've seen in my life. This is arguably one of the fights of 2024. We definitely got to see fundamentals and a different side of Islam Makhachev, because usually a lot of people think that Islam is best known for his grappling, but I believe that he showed great striking against one of the best boxers in the UFC in Dustin the Diamond Poirier. And Islam was still able to clutch up and get the darts on Dustin Poirier after going through those 5 brutal rounds with a seasoned veteran and just surviving and coming out on top. Now, shifting our focus to the featherweight champion, Ilia El Matador Topuria, his fight with Max Holloway was absolutely phenomenal. I would say this is probably one of the greatest performances I've seen all year. Ilia Topuria stated that he was going to be the first one to knock out Max Holloway, and he did it. Fighters in the likes of Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Alexander Volkanovski, Yair Rodriguez, they've all tried to touch the great chin of Max Holloway, and some got a little bit close but still weren't able to get the job done, and Topuria did it in his first try. So to me, that's probably one of the greatest performances that we've ever seen. Looking into both of these fighters, starting off with Islam Makhachev, he's probably one of the most well-rounded fighters in the UFC roster to this date. From his striking to his sambo to his jiu-jitsu, everything is on point and he rarely has any mistakes. I feel like one of his toughest challenges were definitely when he was up against Volk and Dustin Poirier, but he still managed to come out on top. Sometimes he was a little bit weight drained and he had staph infection in his fight with Dustin Poirier, but he still managed to get the finish and he still managed to defeat both fighters. So to me, those are Islam's hardest challenges and he still managed to win. And one of Islam's best performances, in my opinion, had to go with his fight against Charles Oliveira. I thought that was very impressive how he was able to finish Charles Oliveira while he was just on a crazy streak while he was the champion and finishing everybody. So to me, Islam is definitely the favorite in this fight. I do believe he does have different areas and different strategies that he could implement into Topuria. In Topuria's lifestyle with Max Holloway, he definitely struggled a little bit. If you actually go back and watch the first couple rounds, you could definitely see Max Holloway doing a good job finding his timing here and there, and he also managed to just beat up Topuria's legs. So I believe Islam can kind of use that to his advantage. So those are some parts that I'll give to Islam in this fight with Ilia Topuria. Shifting our focus onto the featherweight champion, Ilia Topuria, I believe that he's a very well-rounded fighter too. His grappling, his jiu-jitsu, and his boxing is absolutely phenomenal, man. From his head movement to his power, everything about Ilia Topuria is on point. And one of the biggest takeaways with putting up Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev, I believe Topuria can knock out Islam Makhachev, and that is something that we've seen in the UFC. And if he's in the octagon with Topuria, I could see the same thing happening again. Ilia Topuria is currently still undefeated, and he looks to be improving every time he steps foot in this octagon. For somebody who is a champion, he's always seeming to fight like a contender. He's always going after his opponents, always looking for the finishes, and finds the finishes. Unlike Islam Makhachev, we rarely get to see Ilia Topuria actually struggle and in danger. Whenever you see him in a little bit of danger, he always ends up coming back and knocking out his opponent. So this is where I have to give just the determination and just the drive to find the finish. I'll have to give that edge to Topuria because he always has that knockout power in his back pocket, but Islam is a dog too as well. So this is where I find it a little bit hard to predict who is going to win this fight. I currently believe Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria are the most skilled fighters in the UFC to date, and I believe they are worthy of holding their championships. And I do think that they need to fight each other. They're currently in their prime, coming off 2 amazing wins, and they have so much hype around them, and it'll be such a super mega fight that it needs to go down. I believe there's a lot of Ilia Topuria fans and a lot of Islam Makhachev fans, and these two people are very confident and they're very good trash talkers. I feel like a lot of people don't realize this about Ilia Topuria and Islam. They're very cocky, confident, you know, like smug trash talkers, and I feel like it will just create a lot of moments in press conferences and just in the build up to the fight. I believe it would be such an entertaining thing for the UFC to do. Overall, those are just some of my thoughts on Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. I believe that would be such a highly skewed fight, and I think a lot of fight fans all across the world would be really invested in it. But overall, just to make my final prediction, I'm actually quite unsure who's going to win this match. If I am being honest, I do have to lean towards Islam Makhachev because I feel like he's proven himself time and time after one another. But the thing is, Ilia Topuria is dangerous, and that KO power that he has in his back pocket, and he's just proven himself too as well, especially just in his recent fight. So this is something I want to see go down, and I feel like it's one of those fights that we just have to wait to see what happens. But at the looks of it, I doubt it's even going to happen. It does seem that the next in line for the Featherweight Championship is Alexander Volkanovski, and it looks like Arman Tsarukyan is going to be Islam's next opponent in 2025. But overall, those are just some of my thoughts and opinions on just Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Just please comment down below who you think will win this matchup. Who are you riding for? But that'll be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to keep it real.